How big a group do you think you're going to have?
Ely's John Juranich is holding a jar of thick, oily-smelling silt he says came from atop Shagwell Lake near Ely. Juranich and his friends in the group North Shield say a drill crew prospecting for precious minerals left a mess atop the lake. They took these pictures to prove it.
To me, it smells like the results of machines being over the top. It smells very strong that there is some kind of oil in here.
The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency inspected the site Friday and pronounced it clean. They confirmed the material at the site was silt with slight oil drippings, possibly not even from the drill rig. State workers had monitored the drill crew throughout the process, saying they followed all the rules. But for people like those in North Shield, following all the rules isn't good enough, and they make no bones about it. They don't want any mining or even drilling for precious minerals in the Ely area.
We don't want any more drilling because we've seen the results of just one drilling. Now, they were underneath the magnifying glass, and we thought they'd really clean up their act, and they should have because everybody was watching. Well, if they left something like this on just one drilling, what is going to happen when they drill the whole lake?
North Shield claims to represent a good number of those living in the Ely area. Others say that's just not true, and that mining and the jobs it would bring would be welcome here. Both sides get a chance to talk about it tonight at a public hearing in the Ely City Council chambers. Dave Jensch, News 6.
And it helps on planning if they're going to plan a new school, a new highway, shopping centers, medical clinics, that type of thing. A lot of the planning for the next 10 years will be based on the numbers that we generate in this year.
This was started by the Close-Up Foundation, and right now I know there are 40 states involved, and this is more of an individual competition. It's not team, but individual.
Available housing in Duluth is unheard of these days. With a 2 to 4% vacancy rate, there's a need to create opportunities for low-income homes.
Before we can address the needs of upper-income people for housing, we need to fill the gap in providing safe, affordable, decent housing for low-income families in this community.
Tonight, the Duluth City Council approved a request to get $775,000 in community resource funds. It's part of the Urban Revitalization Action Program. In the $1.3 million project, new homes would be constructed and neighborhoods in the West End and East Hillside would get a facelift. Mayor John Fito says inviting these improvements will help now and in the future.
We're hopeful that the type of demonstration of results here will lend itself to both expanded abilities to seek other funding as well as the potential for further funding down the line.
In Duluth, Julie Geyer, News 6.
All police officers, the program is entitled to care.
How bad is it?
Oh, that's all determined by
Where's Ben? Miss.
He's here.
Ben? Yeah, he's going. Yeah, we're going to go on.
That there isn't an active group working in solidarity. There are real questions about when they say democracy. And even the president of that country has acknowledged that the military, his military, is responsible for the deaths of those Jesuits and for the deaths of many others. So my main task is to try to awaken the awareness of the church people here. And daycare centers and schools and work cooperatives. So like I say, in my parish, which is a good example, there are real questions about when they say democracy. What do they mean? Shots, huh? Yeah. And that there isn't an active group working in solidarity with El Salvador.
We don't need many of the services in our half of the township that the people in the other half need, because we are a rural community, and about all we need really are road maintenance and fire protection. Basically, that's all we need.
When I look at the data, and if you people have to make judgments about other townships in the future, I would almost tell you to go back to square one and take a look from a policy point. Do you want a group of 60 to be able to split off, or 80? Because in terms of voters,
neither provided the funding necessary.
The bad news of Governor Perpich's proposed $3 million loss of funds for St. Louis County seems to be getting worse. Couple that with the county's projected $7 to $10 million shortfall, and that spells $13 million of trouble in 1991.
Unless, number one, state funding can be increased, which isn't likely, or number two, we can get authority to raise our levy limits, we will have reached a point where we can no longer maintain the existing programs.
But even if the legislature doesn't pass the Perpich plan, 300 county jobs will still be lost. Meals on Wheels, senior volunteers, and employee training will also suffer. These activities make up 20% of the county's $200 million budget. Commissioners say it's a matter of the state mandating some programs, neglecting service needs, and not allowing enough money for them.
We are at a point now where we have to maintain a certain level of reserves just so we can have day-to-day operating capital.
Dipping into a $5 million reserve for help doesn't seem to be an answer. The board has put a freeze on hiring and wants the budget process for 1991 to begin now. It hopes these actions, plus an in-depth look at state-required programs, will supply alternatives to the budget squeeze. There is no indication which programs will be affected. Commissioners say less money is felt by everyone, and the public must respond to state lawmakers. They say residents who are angry about cuts which affect them personally may make the difference in just how severe those cutbacks will be. At the St. Louis County Courthouse, Julie Geyer, News 6.
$1,000. From 31% to 45%.
Before we can address the needs of upper-income people for housing, we need to fill the gap in providing safe, affordable, decent housing for low-income families in this community. Thank you.
New pool area, as you can tell. Lots of jacuzzis and
Well, we certainly think that having the 9th largest hotel in the state will be quite an amenity for the city of Duluth, especially with the deck opening here in 2 short months.
Another sign up underneath.
Just a little bit? Just a little bit.
I don't like it because I get to sleep in the mornings, and I do like it because it's blowing around the house because I have to clean and everything.
With ceiling reinforcement now complete in 37 of Central's rooms, school administrators have been thrown another curveball. They hadn't planned to reopen Central until Monday, but because contractors finished their repair work several days ahead of schedule, administrators are altering their plans. Teachers will report to school tomorrow, and on Thursday morning, it's school as usual. Central's principal says those students who have been doing their study packets over the break will be rewarded with extra credit upon their return. Those who haven't will have some making up to do.
The other ones that possibly have not done the work, the teachers will see that they do this work when they get back to the classrooms.
When students return to school on Thursday, they will have missed 14 days of classes. School administrators have decided the students only have to make up 3 of those days.
There are a limited number of ways to make that sort of response, but there are some ways to do it. There are adding days to the end of the year. There are going to school on Saturdays. There is extending the school day, perhaps combinations of those things.
How and when the kids will make up those 3 days is not expected to be decided for several weeks. In Superior, Tony Shockley, News 6.
We don't throw it away.
The media was invited today to witness the latest effort to finish the Duluth Zoo expansion project. Several students at Washington Junior High were working on a gigantic mural to be displayed at the Safety and Health Fair in Duluth on Thursday and eventually in St. Paul.
Just to show the children of the city really support the expansion project at the zoo, and they want to have a finished zoo.
The mural is made up of dozens of sections, each depicting an empty zoo exhibit. On Thursday, kids will fill in the animals of their choice. All of them want a bigger zoo.
It should be expanded. I mean, because people, like, they come from all of the other places, you know, like Canada and stuff, just to see the zoo, and it should be bigger.
It'd be nice to have a bigger zoo in Duluth that'll bring in a lot more people, I think.
I think it would be nice to, like, have more animals and more stuff and more souvenir stands and everything. I think all the animals that are there would be more educational for the children to see. It would be funner to go.
The city needs to raise $500,000 for the zoo, which will be matched by the state. Everyone hopes the project can be finished by 1993.
In this, it's really difficult to say how many of the projected 625 students that are projected for next year at Washington, how many of those students and their parents will take the board up on this offer to attend one of the other schools?
Problems. So third is the calendar coming in the midst. Member Burns.
Mr. Chair, I question whether...
First, there's some introductory materials, which I think...
We found we were missing 194 deals of pull tabs, which is approximately 40 cases. And we did, however, pay for the boxes and the tax on them, which came to about approximately $13,000. But now we didn't receive any cash profits from those boxes. And so we found...
And I'm not really sure. I'd be happy to respond to that on March 29th when we do hear from the people who are interested in this. It's really difficult to say how many of the projected 625 students that are projected for next year at Washington, how many of those students and their parents will take the board up on this offer to attend one of the other schools.
There are not any problems. So third is the calendar coming in the midst. Member Burns.
Mr. Chair, I question whether...
First, there's some introductory materials, which I think...
Being that this is a public meeting, we ask that there's no smoking in...
This comes to 40... I don't understand exactly the breakdown here because there's two numbers, but it looks like it comes to about $43,000. Where the difference of 23,000 comes from, I don't know.
To reduce the waste stream and to get better controls, and to do an example.
We now realize that local units of government are being forced to pick up some of the deficit spending that's been going on at the federal and at the state level.
Let's take the problem of waste management. The state of Minnesota has decided, and rightly so, that we must find ways to reduce the waste stream. Landfill abatement and recycling program and required delegation has been deeply supportive of our concerns. They have been briefed on the issue. It gets burned, every bit of it. And then what they take from landfills on... Okay. Well, if you drink in a year's time, there's only so many plant... Actually, believe it or not, this kind of jug is recyclable. And people in Duluth are actually paying you money to recycle this stuff. Okay, so this kind of plastic is recyclable, but you know what? There's actually nobody in this entire area that's recycling this stuff. It gets shipped way out east someplace. Something else, that's great. That's a good idea. Now some of you raised your hand that you guys drink this all the time. Let me see the hands of somebody. Okay, now, what do you do with them? How could you read?
Hawaii. Just the word conjures an immediate mental picture. Spectacular island vistas, swaying palms, beautiful Polynesian women performing elegant and sensuous dances, sand and surf and incredible sunsets, a sense of paradise. And in fact, Hawaii is just about everyone's idea of a tropical heaven.
But there is trouble in this paradise. A storm has been brewing here for several years, a Hawaiian ice storm. But this isn't something Mother Nature cooked up. This is something humans are doing all by themselves.
This is the ice that chills Hawaiian hearts. It's a drug, smoked like crack, but perhaps even more deadly than its cocaine cousin. There were 12 deaths involving ice in the first 6 months of 1989 alone, the most recent period for which statistics are available. This in a metropolitan area of under 500,000 people. The dead range from teenagers to seniors and come from all of Hawaii's many ethnic groups. But you don't have to use ice to feel its sting. Police are trying to find some way to get a handle on how many non-ice users are being injured in Hawaii's ice storm.
It scares me to death. And I have friends right now that don't know what to do. I mean, they're watching their children literally destroy their lives.
Sylvia Wabaiole has seen drugs affect all of her children's lives. Now a cousin who attended the best private schools and was an athlete is dead after getting involved in an ice deal. Honolulu prides itself on being relatively peaceful. It boasts the lowest ratio of violent crime for any American city over 100,000 in population. But the violence from ice is cutting into that sense of safety. What is this new drug phenomenon that is a storm in Hawaii and threatens to sweep across the mainland as well? It may surprise you to learn that ice is not a new drug at all.
Ice is a larger crystal than what's commonly known as crystal meth.
The difference is that while the old crystal meth was injected or snorted, ice is smoked. A tiny sliver of the drug is placed inside this glass pipe and heated to release a vapor. When cooled, the drug recrystallizes and can be used again. For that reason, even though ice is expensive, it seems economical to users. But there is no economy to the devastation that ice rains on the people who use it, their friends and family, and the community at large. Hawaii is struggling to find answers before rising violence and death destroys the idyllic island peace that draws millions of tourists each year.
And the purpose is to invite parents and students and actually any interested members of the public to come to the building at that time. We think by then the desks will be back in place and so forth, because we're fairly sure that there are people who are just plain curious about what may have taken place there.
And get to the fast food industry and did a little research on some
those containers that have recycled materials in them, and some will be labeling it that it's made from recycled stock. And so there's a tremendous power in the consumer to support those products that are actually closing the recycling loop by coming back into the marketplace.
To stay on when we transport it, but also so they can move it. Kath just mentioned environmental awareness.
A lot of us don't think about it. None of this in our time, probably in geological time, was actually.
You know, just basically property damage, I would guess. You know, water flowing into basements, things like that, flooding garages. Anything you have laying on the floor probably get wet.
First baby I've managed to produce.
Maybe for 11 hours.
That's good.
is used to count the number of people in the country as well as in Duluth. The purpose of the census is simple. Its figures are used by the government to apportion representation.
The country was founded on no taxation without representation. You can't have good representation without a census.
This year's census will come to your mailbox March 23rd, and it may just be the most important census ever. Duluth Mayor John Fido sees the census as a way to gauge how well the city has recovered from the recession of the early 80s.
We want to know how far back we've come up, because we know we have. And the census gives us an opportunity to exactly find out what that means for us. And
the census also gives a snapshot of the community. Its data shows how old people are and where there are needs for more medical care and schools. Businesses use information from the census too. It tells business owners about the quality and quantity of the workforce. And as for its impact on you, if you don't fill out your census, you'll be inadvertently helping to cut down on the federal and state funding Duluth receives.
So between now and the next census, for each person who is left out, you potentially cut down $1,500 in money that would have been available for various services.
In Duluth, Tony Shockley, News 6.
They can be used for education at any school, public or private, in-state or out-of-state, vocational or university. But above all, the program is an investment in our children. Their education guarantees that our future and the future of Wisconsin will be secure.
This muddy site was supposed to be home to an expensive new recreation facility for the children of Lakewood Township, north of Duluth, 2 years ago. Plans were halted when the Lakewood Community Club shut down its charitable gambling pull-tab operation. The pull-tabs were bringing in plenty of money, but members say record-keeping was a mess.
We found we were missing 194 deals of pull-tabs, which is approximately 40 cases. And we did, however, pay for the boxes and the tax on them, which came to about approximately $13,000. But now we didn't receive any cash profits from those boxes.
After 2 years of internal audits, the community club has turned its books over to the State Revenue Department.
Investigators are now trying to sort through financial records described as disorganized at best. They have yet to determine if any crime or irregularity exists. They're not even sure if anything is missing.
But club member Marie Paulson will tell you plenty is wrong. She has boxes of used and unused pull tabs under lock and key. Charges and countercharges are flying between club members and the former gambling manager.
The problem in Lakewood Township may be partly the problem with all charitable gambling.
State officials estimate 80% of the games being run for charity are in violation of state law. Many feel state regulations are to blame.
I think charitable gambling is good if it would have better control on. I think on the state level, when it started, there wasn't anyone that really had control on it. And as many times as we've talked to the state and many representatives on the state level, they didn't seem to want to take the responsibility that they should have had on their shoulders.
Lakewood club members hope to sort out their problems soon so they can get back to raising money and completing their center. In Lakewood Township, Dave Jench, News 6.
The Citizens Referendum Committee hopes to have a proposal ready for the school board in some 3 weeks. Today, the committee worked under an ambitious timetable that could call for a referendum vote in early June.
Well, we think it's important to have it before people get involved in their summer schedules. And that's what we're trying to do, and we're going to try. We've been at it for 8 months, and we think that it's very doable to have it done in this time period.
Still, new ideas keep coming. Today, a plan to add or build a new middle-level school at the Central Senior High site was brought up, and some agree it deserves discussion.
It's very positive. It makes a lot of sense. I am dramatically against spending $20 million on a single building when the district has the tremendous number of needs it has right now.
Would have to take a look at a closer look at the site where Central is located. I would not rule that out as an option. I'm not endorsing it because I need to see what type of acreage there is and what that would do to Central High School and to other programs we are providing on the Central High School site.
Today was the first meeting without participation from school board members. Last night, the board agreed to remove itself from the committee.
I thought there was a lot more input by each of the members, and they're ready to make up their minds and ready to do something, and it's, after all, it is a citizens committee. It's not a school board committee, and I think we're coming fine.
Mars felt the committee today made excellent progress. The next few weeks will be busy as members meet with architects, the public, and spread their word through the media. The Citizens Referendum Committee appears to be extremely concerned over how the public will react to their proposal. They are hoping to hold a referendum vote in early June, but one member today suggested that they leave room for an emergency exit just in case the committee is not completely comfortable with what they have accomplished. In Duluth, Patty Baker, News 6.
Jumping the truck and on track. Yeah. What is that for? Get out of the way. I don't think I'm going to stop it. You could only do that once. But then, you know, what happened. We played calling with Rhonda. Oh, Jesus. You know, and then she got upstairs again. Yeah. You ever get her shoes cleaned out?
Washouts on some roads that are being filled in, and some shoulders gone that got to be repaired. So it's all this cold winter we had, not much snow froze everything up, you know, so the water got nowhere to go. So.
Has seen lean times, but not any longer. This Duluth meat processing plant is on a roll.
In the past 18 months, we've gone from zero sales to about $300,000.
Elliott's makes miles of sausages, wieners, cold cuts, most kinds of processed meats. Their sales territory has always been northern Minnesota and Michigan's UP. Now Elliott's plans to hit the Twin Cities market. But Elliott's is back on its feet, owned by 4 businessmen with a plan. Part of that plan is the expansion that may make Elliott Meats more than just a small-town business.
Would you like to find out where your house is?
As much as I own 80 acres.
Worksheet looks good.
We have a mix of soils. I believe we have some clay, we have some silt, we have some good soils, and we don't have any idea where the water table is.
Is it? And then the road comes in through. Please address.
My name is Dave Danielson. We're looking at that as being detrimental to showing it and viewing that as an area that should not be disturbed.
agenda.
It's another cool, pleasant evening at Waikiki. The tourists mingle happily with Hawaiian youngsters who come to the famous beach area along Kalakaua Avenue for a little excitement. Those who have come to this Pacific playground for a good time have no idea what goes on many nights elsewhere in Honolulu. Police have busted yet another ice house, a small factory that mixes chemicals into crystal methamphetamine hydrochloride, the drug ice. In a refrigerator, the illegal brew is slowly crystallizing along the sides and bottoms of small glass bowls into the smokable form of crystal methamphetamine. In 1988, police seized 12 pounds of ice. In 1989, more than 16 pounds of the drug. Ice has a street value of close to $2 million, depending on how it is sold. It was the biggest single ice seizure in Hawaiian history. Only a 20-pound seizure in Los Angeles in December was bigger. But police do not believe this ice came from some refrigerator lab. They believe this was imported. Ice has been a smokable drug for decades in the Far East. The Philippines and Korea are suspected as main sources of the drug in Hawaii. But even domestic flights can bring the drug from mainland cities like Los Angeles, where drug couriers may have entered U.S. territory.
User population imports the ice not only from the east but from the mainland, and whatever comes into Hawaii is smuggled into Hawaii is exported out to the mainland.
The two-way traffic in drugs means that John McCarthy and his fellow airport cops have to watch both incoming and outgoing flights. While Honolulu police check domestic flights very carefully, it's the threat of ice arriving on international flights that is the greatest concern. This is U.S. Customs at Honolulu International Airport. It's here that foreigners and Americans who have been traveling overseas arrive in the United States. Customs in Hawaii is very careful, especially of flights from the Orient. These passengers from Hong Kong get a very thorough inspection. Usually everything is normal, but not always. In October, Customs seized a large amount of the drug packed in drums filled with butter and margarine. Customs officials admit they don't know how effective their efforts are. There is the fear that Hawaiian visitors might go home with something more than suntans and macadamia nuts. But that is a concern for mainlanders, and a tourist seeking ice better watch out. Most ice busts in Hawaii are of users, not dealers. Alan Costantini, KARE 11 News in Hawaii. Side by side with drug couriers. On this night, the airport...
And the offices for which they will be affected. So it's conceivable that candidates will step forward.
80. List of questions. I do agree with you, Bob, that we could be here forever.
So what about quickly developing issues, the economic issues or the zoo? Everybody here will agree that the zoo is an economic issue. Well, the majority agree here that the port terminal is an economic issue. What are another couple of...
I think the Wisconsin Higher Education Bond Program is a fantastic way to invest in our children and through them to invest in the future for the state of Wisconsin.
The ASME councils across the state today came out in strong opposition to the proposed millions of dollars in cuts in aid to local governments. The proposal would mean drastic cuts affecting nearly everyone, including the elderly, children, and small businesses. The council expressed total support for the legislature to dip into the rainy day fund. They suggest that $100 million be used. Officials consider this as an emergency and fear the proposal will have a tremendous snowball effect throughout the entire area.
And so when they look at us as a union making a plea to the public to start looking at using the rainy day fund, people say, well, that's just your jobs. Well, it isn't. We know that it impacts everybody's jobs, our local economy, and also services.
The rainy day fund, officials say, is only a short-term solution. On a long-term basis, they are suggesting that people making over $100,000 pay more in taxes.
Those people have the ability to pay for services, and our state has the tradition of expecting those people who have the ability to pay to make a larger contribution.
The legislature is considering the rainy day fund issue at this time. In Duluth, Patty Baker, News 6.
Once the bell began to work, it was business as usual at Superior Central. In fact, a malfunction with the first bell of the day was about the only thing that went wrong the students' first day back. Classes were filled and most students were happy to be there.
I feel great because it was boring when you're not in school.
The only classroom minus students was room 241, the site of the ceiling collapse several weeks ago. But students will return to this classroom tomorrow once electricians finish wiring the lights. Most students say they enjoyed their time off, but some admit they have a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, I felt that we're behind in a lot of our work, and we're gonna regret getting behind in it and stuff. But it's okay. I don't think that our education it's not in danger or anything. We're gonna get caught up. We had work at home and stuff to do, so we're doing pretty good, but we got a lot of work to catch up in.
Most students say they feel safe at Central. Many think repairs made on the school ceilings were good, but we did manage to find one student who wasn't taking any chances. In Superior, Tony Shockley, News 6.
Trying to say. The basic idea of the airfield is to put more air business on the airfield, and I think that if Federal Express was here, it would certainly bring in more air traffic. It would certainly create more jobs on the airfield, and that's where Federal Express belongs, is on the airfield. It doesn't belong in an air park.
When Mavis Cedargren looked out into her backyard a few days ago, a lake was beginning to form. Today, more of Tisher Creek moved in, but Mavis still wasn't worried.
Several days ago when we started having the thaw, and then it started to rain, and of course every time it rains we shudder. And hopefully, though, soon we will have this all behind us and we'll have beautiful backyards again.
The water is about 8 inches deep. It hasn't reached the Cedargren home, but the family has made sure the sump pump is in working order just in case the basement is flooded. The biggest nuisance is for Anga, the family dog, who can't quite make it to the kennel. Mavis says all residents are dealing with water the best way they know how.
And we all have the same problem at this time of the year, but so far as long as we don't get water in the basement, we're fine.
Just across their backyard on St. Andrew Street, the road is covered with rushing water. Crews have been closing off streets while they work on culverts jammed with ice chunks. Because the ground is frozen in spots, it's still difficult to prevent runoff.
Thanks to the rain letting up, the potential for more serious flooding seems to have died down. But it will be at least a few more days before these washed out roads and backyards are back to normal. In Duluth, Julie Geyer, News 6.
We've been doing a unit on nutrition since the first day of school, getting the children excited about eating nutritious snacks and in the habit of eating, you know, healthful foods rather than the junk foods.
I thought I had a transmitter in my head, and I thought I could transmit data to certain people who had transmitters in their head.
Derek knows what it's like to be gasping for air under the weight of ice. He was addicted to the drug for several months, using it to stay awake at his job as a data processor. That ice is a form of crystal methamphetamine. The infamous crank and speed of the 1960s and 70s is back in a new and dangerous form, a form that is smoked. Derek lives in the modest Liliha section of Honolulu, where he admits most of his friends are on ice. He knows he must avoid them to stay drug-free. The ice pipe and so-called $50 papers, a tenth of a gram of the drug in a sealed plastic envelope, became the focus of Derek's life, a life of using and selling to finance his habit. Derek was using $500 to $1,000 worth of ice every day.
With crack, it was like a real just like a real fast high. Like, we call it amping. You know, you amp out real. You get a real high at the top, and then you come down fast. But with ice, it's like a steady high.
And it's a high that lasts for hours. Now Derek marks his life not in the hours of an ice high, but in the days on a calendar that he has stayed away from the drug. It has been a very precious 7 months now for Derek's mother.
Well, he's turned around 100% actually. He's back to being my boy again, my son.
Even though Derek was smoking ice for 6 months right here in his room, his mom never noticed. The drug has no odor, and Derek, like many other Hawaiians addicted to ice, was actually able to smoke undetected even at work.
Donovan.
Cheryl never paid for ice once in the year that she was addicted. Cheryl is just 19, and Donovan is her second child. She lost control of her daughter because Cheryl's mother told Hawaiian authorities that Cheryl was on drugs.
I neglected her whenever she was hungry, she wanted to eat. I neglected her for that. To pay attention to her, I neglected her for that too. Because my drug was more important to me. Oh, yeah.
Cheryl has another problem that tortures her. She used ice during her pregnancy with Donovan. He is one of a skyrocketing number of ice babies in Hawaii, and although he seems normal now, doctors have told Cheryl that damage to Donovan may not show itself for years. And the real tragedy is Derek and Cheryl are two of the drug scene's success stories. They are recovering ice addicts who seem to be doing something with their lives. Authorities in Hawaii say they are exceptions. Most ice addicts respond to no voices other than the hallucinations inside their own heads, the ones that sometimes tell them to kill themselves. Hawaii is still looking for answers. Alan Costantini, KARE 11 News in Hawaii.
There are several ways to test. There are short-term detectors, charcoal canisters. They typically are only for 2 to 7 days, so you'll get a very small snapshot of what's going on in your house in terms of radon. But we'd actually prefer people to use a longer-term test, an alpha track type detector that could be used for 1 or 3 months, and even preferably a year, so they'll have an annual average of the radon concentration in their house. 46% of the homes tested above the 4 picocuries per liter guideline. That's a better indicator of what's going on in our buildings, and 36% of the homes in Minnesota have come back above 4 picocuries per liter.
This is what the linemen use to protect themselves while they're working on high voltage. Like this glove here is tested first electrically, and then after it's electrically tested, then I inflate it to 1.5 times its normal size. Look it over thoroughly, especially around the fingers, which is the working area. And the glove is yellow on the inside and black on the outside. If any yellow shows through, the glove has to be taken out of service so that no one gets hurt.
The paper tried to kind of write
homework, and they just decided they were going to.
We're talking about categorizing the soils and then analyzing the soils and then authorizing what to do about that through a special area management plan. So what the state is doing is allowing money for the soil survey, so to help us categorize the soils.
And that was despite the rain. What else is cooking? Any other good news today? I wasn't there quite till 11, maybe like 4 or 2, except for when I came down to watch the news. And
This rain-swept field off the Miller Trunk Highway may soon be home to a huge Walmart retail outlet. Walmart has applied for initial permits. Hermantown planners are beginning the first step towards an environmental assessment. Mayor Wally Loberg is optimistic.
Well, we're very thrilled that they give us a chance to come up here to Hermantown, and we will welcome them with open arms up here in Hermantown because we need the development, we need the employment, and so forth. And we're going to work 100% with them.
Hermantown is just the latest in a string of Walmarts proposed for the Northland. Superior is moving ahead with site preparation, with construction expected to begin soon. Grand Rapids is well into the permit process, with possible construction as soon as May. And Ashland is also under consideration. Developers working out of Texas, New York, and Colorado are leading the Walmart advance, proposing 80 to 90,000 square foot buildings as the retail giant gets bigger.
The influx of Walmarts is also an expression of confidence in the economic vitality and retail strength of the entire region.
The company has done studies which say the area can support more retail. Its location in Hermantown pits Walmart against existing discount stores like Target and Kmart. Initial talks say the complex will include several smaller stores as well. The project remains speculation for now, while Hermantown city planners wait for formal applications. In Hermantown, Dave Jansch, News 6.
As you enter the depot on any Wednesday, Saturday, or Sunday, you're greeted by the sounds of old-time piano. 86-year-old Ernie Heffernan is the man playing the keys. He's been entertaining depot visitors for the past 7 years.
It's a good hobby. I've been retired in the railroad for 20 years. And then I played at the Radisson, I played over at Had shavings, of course, for 2 years. I opened up Murphy's down here the first 2 nights.
And the list goes on. Ernie has played the piano all over Duluth. He's kind of a legend around town. He gets a lot of requests these days.
Well, it's one that they call the Banker's Song.
How's that go?
I can't give you anything but love except Midwest Federal.
How's that go? Play a little bit for me.
Over the years, he's memorized his favorite tunes. He says he's too lazy to read the music. And when he was forced to take lessons at age 9, he was too lazy to practice.
I was supposed to practice a half an hour, and I'd sneak outside. I'd be playing ball, and the housekeeper would come out and grab me by the ear and back in the... But later on, I realized it wasn't so bad after all.
Now all you have to do is just ask him to play a little something for you, and you'll never get him to stop.
You never get tired of it. There's always a change, you know. It isn't like most hobbies. You over again, this is you hear a new song or something, work on it till you get it, and so forth. So it's a good hobby.
I mean, does it make you...
Yeah, well, I used to play over in St. Luke's.
I made a head with 3 eyes on it, and it had like fangs for teeth and a nose.
What is that?
A mask.